Hello everyone, welcome to another WWE pay-per-view review from the CC Network. I'm Fred, your ever-reliable host as always, and I am very happy to just get this pay-per-view out of the way, because I'm certain a lot of you will know why. SmackDown's Battleground pay-per-view emanated from the Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania last night, and considering this was the last pay-per-view before SummerSlam, surely they'd get us all excited by putting on a great show, and well, you can probably tell that isn't the case because before I've even gotten into the review, I'm going to say that this show was garbage. I don't normally sum up my eventual final thoughts this early on, but I think we're all on the same page in calling this an abject failure of a show, right? Before I trudge myself through the dirt of this review that you're waiting for me to rant on, as I'm sure you will, I have to look at this show's one highlight that kicked off the evening. Sadly, the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match that saw a New Day become the new champions, defeating the Usos off the Trouble in Paradise and the springboard elbow from Xavier Woods after 13 minutes and 47 seconds of pulsating fast action. And let me tell you, this event reached its high point early as it seemed to be on autopilot from then on. It was fast and intense as both teams went pedal to the metal with near falls and shifting momentum aplenty. And as a result, they started this pay-per-view just like the world was going to end and that they wanted this match to be remembered as their greatest achievement. It wasn't, but hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? Now, Armageddon premonition aside, this match was based entirely around Xavier Woods taking punishment and somehow fighting back against the odds, which delivered some nice story elements there. It got the crowd invested and behind the eventual winners while allowing the Usos room to showcase their devastating physical style, as the New Day, especially Xavier, pulled out a couple of nice moves too, including that double powerbomb into the post or the floor, I can't remember which, by the Usos, and of course that springboard elbow into the super kick. Oh my days. There was enough moves here to really get this match going, and it was really good and it flowed quite nicely. Right up until the consecutive amount of near falls caused me to throw my suspension of disbelief out of the window. Now, I don't care who you are, but you do not kick out of a springboard super kick. If Shelton Benjamin can't, then Xavier Woods surely can't. Now, I would have appreciated Kofi or Big E assisting to stop the pinfall or even the foot on the ropes thing, but not a full-blown kick-out. That just isn't realistic, okay? Now, while the pace was relentless, it did dampen my enjoyment somewhat, as it didn't give the match time to breathe. It needed a slower section or two to make it feel like a good match overall. But the length was just about right, so it balances itself. I just wish they went about it differently is all, because the amount of near falls and crazy pace was great and exciting to start pay-per-view off, which is exactly what I want, but I like a title match to be a little more measured and balanced considering the amount of offense both teams ended up getting in this thing. That's just me. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, this was the highlight of the evening, but it was one I thought could have been better given context. The Money in the Bank match was better paced, but ruined by a poor finish. This one had a finish that was right, but the balance and pace didn't work out. And my enjoyment was okay, but it obviously makes this match suffer from getting anywhere near 3 stars. So it matches its predecessor at 2.5 stars. Now let's be real here. This match was good, but having too many near falls isn't really the best thing as far as I'm concerned. It was a solid match, average at best. Now while some of you may find that to be harsh, I feel it's justified because many may enjoy lots of near falls, but when the stakes aren't that high and the match is only going, about 14 minutes, it's not stretched out too long, you want to be able to have it make concrete sense, not just having near falls for excitement's sake, especially this early on in the night. If I knew the rest of the pay-per-view was going to be as bad as it was, I would have said, hey, tone down the near falls and put them in the other matches so they actually have some excitement to them. That's just my opinion. Oh well, you all know this is the highest rated match this show will get, where the phrase "it's downhill from here" is an understatement. So let's kick on with the rest of this thing, and my mood is going to sour greatly. And we kick things off with the exhibition match between Shinsuke Nakamura and Baron Corbin, which of course ended in a disqualification, of course. Good lord, after Corbin intentionally low-blowed the King of Strong Style following 12 minutes and 29 seconds of, action? I mean, the thing is, this match on paper should have been great. You have a former amateur boxing champion against a guy who could literally kick your face off if given the chance. This should have been a physical, intense, aggressive, and in my opinion, fast bare-knuckle brawl. It should not have been a methodical, technical contest. But it happened to be that, and it therefore made the quality suffer immensely. If you're going to book Shinsuke Nakamura properly in his matches, though, like I've just highlighted, you need the matches to flow at a mediated and decent pace to allow his hard-hitting offense to actually feel devastating. But I can see why they did this, because Baron Corbin, they want the Money in the Bank briefcase holder to look credible against a legitimate fighter in Nakamura, the famed Japanese charisma machine who could, like I've just highlighted, kick your frickin' face off. And to have it play into his slow, methodical style of psychology and aggression and moveset, I can fully understand that being part of it, and that made sense. But they didn't leave Nakamura the space and room to work. And considering, like I've just highlighted, he can knock your face off at a single moment's notice, it showed that he couldn't handle Corbin. And to have that ridiculous ending, that bullshit DQ, was ridiculous. And of course they did it to make sure that both men didn't look weak, and that they didn't have to take a pinfall. It's 50-50 frickin' booking, because they know they can take one or the other either way and think, oh, we haven't damaged either of them. Oh yeah, you think so? Corbin dominated that match and the momentum side of things and made Nakamura look weak. So if you've never seen Nakamura wrestle and you've heard a lot about him and you're hyping yourself up for this, he didn't put a good display on, and it wasn't good. This match accomplished nothing as a result, because seriously, if you're going to have Corbin put in a good display, at least have him barely coming out at the other end of it, with Nakamura looking victorious but viciously worn out, having to battle the guy, and actually having to make Corbin wrestle a fast-paced match, which I know he can, because his match with Kalisto in that chairs match last year is a testament to whether he can or not. Jesus Christ. Now, this match had its moments with the psychology at the back of Nakamura, and the slow pace early on with Corbin, combined with the desired length of the match being needed, was fine at 12-something minutes, but the pace was the same throughout and barely went into good territory. It was monotonous and boring, and it just wasn't nice at all. We could have seen something good from this match, but it ended just as it was about to go somewhere, and it was just disappointing. Now, while these two wrestlers are good at what they do, and I've warmed to Corbin over the last year or so, they had no chemistry here, and it showed in what was a very subpar 3/4 of a star match. Now, this just didn't go anywhere. It would have been a 1-star match if that finish didn't happen, though, so it could have been lucky, but unfortunately it wasn't, and this is just the first step in a downhill slide that we are about to get to on this show, because it gets worse, and you will know that if you watched it last night. If you haven't, go up on the network and watch it and then come back to me, and you'll see why what I'm about to do is slate this show from top to bottom, or, considering as we're in the middle, continue that shovel dig all the way down to the core and beat it over the head with it. Next, we have the 5-women elimination match for the number 1 contendership for the SmackDown Women's Championship at SummerSlam, which was won by Natalya, eliminating Charlotte Flair off a schoolboy to the bottom turnbuckle. How cheap is that? In 11 minutes and 48 seconds. Well, this, ladies and gentlemen, was a sloppy, uncoordinated and misguided train wreck of a match, wasn't it? It was too slow to justify itself, had so many quick eliminations and so little time to build up with it that there was no sense of drama, even with those eliminations giving some form of psychology, just a little bit of storytelling that they were that bloody desperate and that bloody good to eliminate them all. It just wasn't utilised well, because one after the other, no one was allowed to build momentum. And that's not good. The crowd was silent, and the ending, which I've already highlighted is incredibly underwhelming, just epitomised how ridiculous of a spectacle this was. If wrestlers in an elimination match end up breaking up pinfalls to hinder themselves, why? Because Lana and Tamina are teaming together despite the fact that hasn't been mentioned on TV this entire time as to why? It's ridiculous. Why would you stop someone being eliminated if it betters your chances of winning? Elimination match! It doesn't make sense! Oh, good lord. Oh, this match was terrible. There was nothing to it that really made me go, okay, the women of SmackDown are doing a good job here. There was too much time with very little going on. There was no energy, no life. It was just so flat, so bland. And this should not have been on pay-per-view. Give me a triple threat between Lynch, Flair and Natalya, and I'd be happy with that. Give me that. Instead of just bunching all the women together. Call up a few more women from NXT. Sign a few from the Wwe Women Classic. Give the depth to the SmackDown women's roster, because seeing all of them wrestle, and not to mention have Naomi on commentary not actually contributing, was even worse. This was a SmackDown TV match on pay-per-view, and it was maddening to see. It was a train wreck. It was a 0. And I understand a lot of you are going to say, well, the Raw women aren't booked any better than this, but at least I give a shit. In the case of this utter clusterfuck of a match that just had nothing, considering it was a #1 contenders match, I should have felt excited. But I didn't. And the fact that Natalya won it made it even worse for me, because I really do not like Natalya. I used to. But she's so bad on the mic. Her in-ring skills are slow and sloppy. Not as bad as Lana's, I may add, which were also horrible in this thing. The thing is, Naomi versus Becky, Naomi versus Flair, Naomi versus Tamina even, in a David versus Goliath thing I would have appreciated. But Natalya? No, why? What? The one thing that I'm going to highlight that shows how little I care about this upcoming SummerSlam match, Natalya, your sharpshooter in this contest, was barely even a sharpshooter. It was barely even a Walls of Jericho, let alone a cloverleaf. It was appalling. If you try to put that on Naomi and tell me that it's quote-unquote painful, I will punch the screen. If you're going to do a sharpshooter correctly, watch Brett on a match on the network and see how he arches the back. Makes it look painful. Hell, even Cesaro does a better sharpshooter than you. What the fuck is... Anyway, I'm rambling here. I said I'd try and get away from this as quickly as possible, but I think a lot of you like this. Let's just move on. Jesus Christ. And we now have the US Championship match, which saw Kevin Owens regain the title. Yes, he did. Defeating AJ Styles by rolling up a crossface into a pin somehow. In 17 minutes and 47 seconds. Now, their match at Backlash 2 months ago felt important as these two skilled and very good wrestlers locked horns for the first time and methodically and slowly, but then surely, tore each other apart. And that was lovely. I gave it 3 stars. It was a pretty good match. However, this rematch was... It was damper than a rag in a bucket of water. For the love of God, it was lacking any enthusiasm and electricity that its prior bout had. All because, I'm going to point this out, Styles won the belt in MSG a couple of weeks ago. And as a result, this match had nothing to work with. No payoff, no reason for me to care. Not to mention, based on Owens' ability to work down Styles with the headlocks and counteracting that fast style with his bruising, aggressive, slow style, just like Corbin and Nakamura did earlier, was too similar to the match from Backlash that I really didn't even see a point in watching it. We've seen it from both men, and there was sure just enough pace to get it going, but it was formulaic, boring, and just depressing to watch. It had its moments, sure, but they were fleeting, signified by Styles selling and Owens working of the arm towards the end, but that was pretty much it. The match went about the length I expected it to, and it was great considering the build-up that it needed, but the fact that there was too much momentum shifting, the pace was too slow for too long. It very rarely peaked anywhere like it needed to be. It needed to be that intense, fast match. Like I've said it countless times, these matches need to be bloody fast, but they never are for some reason. Oh, god damn it. The thing is, the crowd didn't care either. This is a match between two of the most popular guys on the roster, and it's Philadelphia, and they did not care. They tried to inject something, I ranked it here on a 1.5 on the rating factor scale, so they did something. They cheered for AJ Styles and booed Kevin Owens periodically. It was enough. It was enough in a boring, lifeless match to give it something, and if you total up all the things here, considering that the pace and the length somewhat worked, a little in parts, but not all. And I just look at this match and wonder, how in the blue hell did these two go from a 3-star match to a 3/4 of a star match this time round? I never thought I'd say that about these two. The thing is, I said after Backlash, these two would only get better, but boy was I wrong. This match was nowhere near what I or many anticipated, and it just continues the disappointment train that is this pay-per-view, because this match should have been the match of the night. It should have been the match that everybody remembers, but if AJ hadn't have won the title, we wouldn't have seen that amazing payoff of Styles winning the title in a very athletic and tense contest, which is what we wanted. This was tense, but not in the way we wanted it to be. And I'm annoyed. But sadly, I have to go on to, well, frankly, an abomination. The flag match between Rusev and John Cena, which ended with Cena AAing the Bulgarian Brute through 2 tables off his podium to put the flag away after what was a never-ending laborious slog of 21 minutes and 3 seconds. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, if you thought the last match was tired, tepid and dull, this was worse by the longest of margins, and I called it an abomination for a reason, because this was, frankly, insulting. Insulting to the nth degree. This bout had the crowd somewhat into both guys, though, considering that Cena is loved and hated, and Rusev is loved by the smarks in Philly, and not to mention he's also hated by those who don't know that kayfabe was dead and buried a long time ago. Seriously? If this is a worldwide wrestling company and suddenly, I'm anti-America, therefore I'm hated by everybody. That's something that does not work in the modern day, trust me. And the fact is, that crowd gave it something. A little flicker of light, but it was wasted on a very sluggish and such a poor bout that never desired to make itself interesting, considering it had a no DQ stipulation. Why the hell did they not utilise this? They could have fought in the crowd, they could have battered each other over the announce tables, they could have beaten each other up in the timekeeper, they could have added some venom to this, but no, they didn't. It built up anticipation for very little, and it didn't benefit anybody. Rusev looked dumb as a pile of rocks for not ending this match so many times. He battered Cena over the head with the stand and didn't think, you know what, I can just chuck it away and go on and win. Even when he grabbed the flag, he was going down the turnbuckles so slowly. I'm just sitting there going, oh, for God's sake, my sense of disbelief, can I take it anymore? And I thought my suspension of disbelief went right out the window at Xavier Woods kicking out of that super kick. Jesus, it was even more annoying that Cena, despite being annihilated and hitting multiple accolades, somehow survived. Despite the fact he's nearly 40, this is ridiculous, and these two oversold a match that didn't look all that punishing. It was drawn out for so long in such a monotonous fashion that it just became toxic, to where if I'm talking about it, I'm just getting infuriated. Where the inevitable victory for John Cena did not feel satisfying, and people would say, oh, Rusev looked good in that. Yes, but he also looked good against Roman Reigns in Hell in a Cell last year, and he got annihilated at the end despite having a chain in the accolade over Roman Reigns' mouth. God, I hate how WWE are using Rusev. He was my rising star of this year, and he's being flat out underappreciated and not utilised at all. This match was a waste of time and talent, and it's a 0. Flat out. There is no doubt about it, and it might just be the worst pay-per-view match I've seen all year, beating out Rusev's other entry, the squash match against Big Show at Fastlane. I thought nothing would beat that in terms of shit. This is quite literally that. God, this match. This match, this feud, everything related to it is as archaic as the match type, full of cliches and nuances that a modern day wrestling product does not need. And I hope this is a sign that WWE needs to move on from this USA versus the world mentality patriotism storyline. Because I've never been a fan of them because I'm a Brit and I don't take patriotism that seriously. In fact, I absolutely loathe it. So the fact that we're still seeing matches like this in 2017 shows just how out of touch Road Dogg, especially as he's the head writer, and Vince McMahon is. Because this kind of thing does not work anymore. And it's finally shown its age, arguably in the worst way possible. After that rant, I wouldn't even call that analysis, would you? Maybe. The fact is we need to move on to a breather, so to speak. A nice relaxing thing, or is it? Sami Zayn beating Mike Kanellis off the haluva kick after a paltry 7 minutes and 14 seconds. Peanuts in comparison to the rest of the time lengths that this card had. Now this match, thank the Lord Almighty, and I'm not religious, had pace. Oh my god, where's this been all night? And it had some good athleticism, some good moves, momentum shifts, which were lovely. And it also had some comeuppance for what happened on SmackDown last week between Kanellis and Zayn, where Zayn beat Kanellis quite comprehensively and stopped the interference. Lovely! That's lovely, small little things. There's just one small problem, and that's the fact that if they hadn't faced on SmackDown this past week, this match would have felt much more important. Good God! Seriously, this contest should have been a nice breather with a decent amount of wrestling and hopefully psychology, using Maria to interfere, creating story for Sami Zayn to rise up against her and get the victory, and that would have been lovely. But because of what happened on SmackDown this past week with Kanellis getting out of there by the skin of his teeth, we obviously saw this coming, despite the fact I predicted Mike to win because he needed to be built up strong. 50-50 booking strikes again, and logically, it doesn't benefit anybody. Because does Zayn need the victory at this point? No, because I'd rather have had him go a couple of matches on SmackDown and pay-per-view after this one to build his fan response up to where he gets the win and actually feels like a credible babyface. Because people love Sami, but there's not much else to him. This match was athletic, had some pace to it, and a decent small amount of story, just to give it something. But that was all it had. It was empty and had no interest because the build was poor as hell. Why am I supposed to hate Mike and Maria? I actually think the more heelish thing is the idea that Mike is being emasculated by his wife, and that's actually fantastic for a storyline, because that's amazing. I don't think I've seen that in my time watching this company. That would be great if handled correctly by someone pointing it out to him being ignorant and having it play out in his matches, wanting to impress his wife. You know, I'm coming up with better creative ideas than the writing team here. Good Lord, the build-up of Maria trying to go after Sami and everything, it just didn't work, and this match just felt like it had nothing. And while it had a bit of story and a bit of pace, there was nothing, and the crowd were not interested. The match just fell on deaf ears and didn't revitalise them after a really poor flag match. In fact, I wouldn't even consider poor, that's an understatement. A horrendous flag match. The fact that this match didn't even attempt to try was even more frustrating, and it gets a 0 for its troubles, which is sad, because if given a storyline that others could care about, these two could deliver a program worthy of my time, just not tonight and not now, in this current clusterfuck of SmackDown writing. What the hell is going on? But we have the main event to get to now. And surely this match had to be the saving grace of the evening, the WWE Championship Punjabi Prison match. Surely this could save the night. Well, I'm going to say this right now. Yes and no, as Jinder Mahal defended the title against Randy Orton, winning, I cannot believe I'm about to say this, with help from the great freaking Khali, of all people, in 27 minutes and 38 seconds. And to reaffirm my shock, I never thought I'd see the great Khali making a run-in in 2017. But hey-ho, anything can happen in WWE, right? Anyway, this match wasn't out and out terrible. A lot of you are going to say, what the hell were you watching, Fred? Well, the thing is, this match had its moments, and slowly building up tension, which was very slow, worked for its story. It had enough time to ensure that something happened, and it made you feel excited. That spot, for example, Jesus, and those bamboo hitting moves meant that, hey, at least I like that they're using the structure, but I agree with Randy, it needed to make more of a noise. The thing is, overall there was enough to work with to give me something somewhat enjoyable, but... and there's a big but here, and it does not lie. My God, the pace was turgid. To have a match retain the same methodical, slow pace for almost the entirety of its duration robbed it of most of its drama, despite the Singh brothers and a returning Kanellis supplying it in good measure psychology-wise. And with Mahal having all the tricks in the book while he targeted Orton's arm like you've seen in all the matches in this feud thus far, but instead this time allowing him to ensure that Orton will not escape easily was great, and hitting it with the kendo stick so it bled even better. I just wish Orton sold the arm more to make climbing not look like it was the easiest thing he'd ever done and that he wasn't tired as hell. Or we'd be looking at a solid match on the story front, which is something that these two have been good at since the feud started, with aggression, intensity, body selling and psychology, and of course interferences, because that really does help, right? Oh, Jesus. But they left everything else in this contest to be desired as the crowd shared that apathy by chanting delete and CM Punk chants. Now, it takes a lot to make Philadelphia not care, and this wasn't the only time they did that tonight, I can assure you of that. I will give Orton and Mahal credit, though, for trying to make this match feel like a spectacle, but it just didn't work out very well for them. Where do both men go from here? Lord knows, but all I know is that this match did better than expected, but that really isn't saying much considering both of the prior two matches of this type were garbage. It was enjoyable enough to not want me to rip what's remaining of my hair out, which is something the earlier matches on this card nearly achieved with gusto, so I can give it plaudits just for that. Still, to have a main event last nearly half an hour and still be as dull as dishwater, despite some good moments to buoy it up, isn't a great thing. And while some may think I'm being awfully kind, some may think I'm mad. I'm going to be giving this a 1-star rating. It was worse than the Money in the Bank match. It definitely was. But not by that much, which is maddening in its own right. This feud started out so well at Backlash. That was a 3-star contest. Yet it went downhill so quickly over 2 subsequent pay-per-views. Now, I should have expected it when, much like Cena and Rusev, a feud of patriotism and aggression from family, trying to make it all personal, forcefully, just didn't fully work. But I will give Mahal the benefit of the doubt, though. He's just making this run his own and trying his hardest, even though his promo game has gotten very repetitive quickly. If he's going into SummerSlam, I want this one-note patriotic shtick to have some depth. Because if we're going to have him for months going ahead, if he ends up winning at SummerSlam, we have to deal with him in September, October, and then Survivor Series. Oh my days, we are going to feel very tired and very irritated indeed. And after all that, it's time for me to unload my final thoughts on this interesting show, and that is an understatement. It's rare that I'm left so aghast by WWE in this modern day environment. They have a very talented and skilled wrestling roster who should be ruling the world, but instead, thanks to horrible booking and writing, they're left wallowing in their own ability like Lisa Simpson is in her Rocky family life on that incredibly long-running show. Because seriously, they are underappreciated and underutilized and unrecognized for their abilities, and that annoys me. Why I had to use a Simpsons comparison is befuddling, but nonetheless, I call myself the wrestling optimist because I can find positives in a lot of shows that many will criticise as shit, logically. However, there was so little to salvage from this show that it wasn't worth the effort. This pay-per-view blew its load too early, lulling the audience into a false sense of security, failing to muster much from the rest of its tawdry exhibition, which allowed me to harbour discontent the likes of which very few shows can do. And to have the matches be so mundane and uninspiring throughout the card to where even show stealers like Owens vs Styles suffers with it, you know you have a problem here. There was no excitement, no energy, and just no real effort on a phoned-in show of the highest order to where the opening contest was the only one that turned up and actually made the rest of its roster mates look incredibly foolish. Now it seems WWE want to get to SummerSlam so badly that they just threw this pay-per-view under the bus to do it. And the fact that they did this is frankly absurd. It also takes a lot to make a wrestling mad city like Philly just sit on their hands. But this was just something else. At least at In Your House 5 in Hershey, Pennsylvania, some 22 years prior, they had to have Bulldog and Brett put on a bloodbath to rescue a poor show and turn a pro-ECW crowd in their favour. But in this case, they didn't even try. And it showed with an abject product that barely even mustered a shred of empathy from me or that audience, to where even an insane table spot and title changes and an unexpected return could not save it for me. Now, there are very few pay-per-views that I regret watching and have rated abysmally for it. Capital Punishment 2011, WrestleMania 15, Bad Blood 1997, and December to Dismember spring to mind here. This one pay-per-view will rank alongside them and live in infamy for as long as I live. There is no way a pay-per-view in 2017 should be so atrociously bad as this. But with the empty and soulless writing alongside confusing 50-50 booking and outdated concepts and feuds, it's no wonder that this show died as quickly as it arrived. And looking at December to Dismember, that got a 1.5 out of 10, which looks unfair considering it had a 3.5 star, or 3 star, depending on which one I remember, and a 2-star match on it. That was better than this one, where this event could only muster a 2.5 star for its troubles. This show had worse matches overall, but it was at least decently presented, so it wins some points. But for me, that prior show, December to Dismember, couldn't be rescued from the other matches which had no substance. Even the worst matches that got, 3/4 of a star to 1 had something to work with there. So at least I can try to balance these and wonder, can Battleground be saved from December to Dismember's equality and be equal on that level? Could it possibly be that bad? Yes. Because the thing is, despite the little amount of substance, there was very little for me to give a shit about bar the opener, and that does mean, logically, that this is the lowest rated non-flashback show I have ever seen on this channel reviewing to date. Ladies and gentlemen, Battleground 2017 gets quite the astonishing rating, one that will not be beaten for some time. I've already highlighted it. For one show, it's equal to December to Dismember. It is 1.5 out of 10. This was a pay-per-view that shows what happens when your creative team are starved of, creativity. And the wrestlers are lumbered with its permeating aura. Because how can a group of mostly talented wrestlers, Lana excluded, put together a show so bad? It boggles the mind. I squarely put the blame at WWE's pay-per-view schedule and their brainless writers. I'm looking at you, Road Dogg, for this. I said on Twitter last night, like I've done many times, if they had one pay-per-view a month, one Raw event, say in June, alright? And then they had, a SmackDown one in July. And then they had SummerSlam where both were tri-branded. You'd only have one month period for SmackDown to build up, but Raw would have 2, wouldn't it? And then you give SmackDown the September pay-per-view, Raw the October one, and then you have Survivor Series happening, which means SmackDown gets 2 months of build, and it would actually allow these 2 brands, 2 distinctive rosters with their own writing teams to be able to construct stories that have life, meaning, intrigue, and creativity to flow through them. You have a paying audience to satisfy here. And just to try and stop an event of this quality from happening, it should be your priority. But for the love of God, somehow, it wasn't done. The WWE should be ashamed of this. The thing is, the solution is right in their faces. But they just can't see it. This event was about as lazy and uninspiring a show as I've ever seen. And it's just disgusting to say that I stayed up from midnight through to 4, 5 in the morning watching this? And analysing it and reviewing it and getting this up to you at some point on the Monday or Tuesday? God damn it. It's just horrible. And you can tell that I'm not really into what WWE is doing right now. Because Raw and SmackDown are boring, and the pay-per-views, while delivering on occasion, look a good great balls of fire for that. They can easily sway in quality to where I have trouble trusting them. 2016 had so many good pay-per-views that I can scarcely believe we're 6 months removed from it. It's like the Trump presidency has walked in and said, fuck it, we're going to make WWE worse. Because just like the American government, it's going to shit. Oh, God. I am annoyed. I am angry. I am frustrated that this show was even allowed to air with the writing they put together, with the matches they put together with so little care and effort. It's... SmackDown, ladies and gentlemen, has been on a downward spiral since the turn of the year came round, and it needs to stop ASAP. Because if this keeps up post SummerSlam, I will become so infuriated that, just like many are, we may stop watching. Raw has its peak moments from time to time, but at least Great Balls of Fire gave us hope for their storylines. This, oh my God, it is the antithesis of that on a massive scale. Because after this massacre of a show, I'm hoping that the quality we've seen here does not get repeated. But I'm guessing that's not going to be the case. But we're going to have to wait till SummerSlam to find out. And I am hoping a 4-hour SummerSlam bumper card can deliver something. Because if not, I may be doubting whether I can trust this company going forward. I've been reviewing stuff on this channel now for 7 years? I've been watching WWE since 2002. So I've been a fan for nearly 15 years at this point. And I am starting to have my patience worn thin with them. Because if they do not improve by the Rumble, or even WrestleMania, which I am going to, mind you, we are going to have some serious, serious problems. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, the Battleground 2017 review is done. And I am getting the hell out of here. I do not even want to think about this pay-per-view anymore. If you want to put your opinions in the comment section, go right ahead and do so. Because I'm sure a lot of you will agree that my anger here is justified. I have been Freddie Thomas, you've been people listening, this has been the Battleground 2017 review for the CC Network, and I will see you next time. God damn it.